Task number 3, Msfconsole, is part of the Metasploit introduction module, which is part of the complete beginner path on TryHackMe. As previously mentioned, the console will be your main interface to the Metasploit framework. You can launch it using the Msfconsole. On the attack, okay, so this one is something that we have here as well in the previous task that we finished. Here you can see that the command was used and how it looks after we have access to Msfconsole. Once launched, you will see the command line changes to MSF6 or MSF5 depending on the installed version of Metasploit. The Metasploit console, Msfconsole, can be used just like a regular command line shell, as you see below. The first command is list, which lists the contents of the folder from which Metasploit was launched using the Msfconsole command. A lot of repetition, damn it. I don't like when the space is occupied with stuff, redundant stuff that we already know. Oh, anyway, it is followed by a ping sent to the Google DNS IP address 8888 as we operate from the attack box, which is Linux. We had to add -C1 option to only... Okay, so basically what they're trying to say is that we use Msfconsole app as a simple command line. Here we have the list command from Linux, and then we have the ping with -C, which is from count. As you can see, only sends one ping to see if the Google responds back. And yes, it responds back. It will support most Linux commands, including clear to clear the terminal screen, but will not allow you to use some features of a regular command line. For example, does not support output redirection. And here we see the redirection of the output is not supported. While on the subject, the help command can be used on its own or for a specific command. Below is the helpful menu for the set command we will cover soon. And here we see you can use the history command to see the commands you have typed earlier. Write history to see what you typed. An important feature of Msfconsole is the support of tab completion. This will come in handy later when using Metasploit commands or dealing with modules. For example, if you start typing key and press the tab key, you will see it autocomplete to help. Msfconsole is managed by context. This means that unless set as a global variable, all parameter setting will be lost if you change the module you have decided to use. In the example below, we have used the MS17010 Eternal Blue exploit, and we have set parameters such as rhost. If we were to switch to another module, for example port scanner, we will need to set the rhost value again, as all changes we have made remained in the context of MS17010 Eternal Blue exploit. Yeah, so in other words, if you don't set the options, okay, let's put it in another way. Maybe it's simple to explain. So as we know from task number 2, in Msfconsole we have modules. For instance, here, if we use this exploit of Eternal Blue on Windows, we have options to set here like rhost, remote host. Now, if we don't set remote host globally, we have to set rhost again for every module or exploit that we use. If we set it globally, every module or exploit that we use will have rhost set as our target or whatever we set there. Pretty simple. Once you type the use exploit OK, basically we use the exploit command, you will see the command line prompt change from MSF6 to MSF6 exploit. All right, so from simple this, we will see it like this. Okay, the Eternal Blue is an exploit allegedly developed by the US National Security Agency, NSA for short, for a vulnerability affecting the SMB-v1 server on numerous Windows settings. The SMB server message block is widely used in Windows networks for file sharing and even for sending files to printers. If we go over here to TCP/UDP ports from Wikipedia and we say SMB, you can see over here the default port 445 is used for directory services, SMB, file sharing, right? Eternal Blue was leaked by the cybercriminal group Shadow Brokers in April 2017. In May 2017, this vulnerability was exploited worldwide in the WannaCry ransomware attack. All right, and here we see, okay, we see the command in order to access. All right, so cool. The module to be used can also be selected with the use command, right? Here we see this. We say use and then the full path of the exploit we want to use. While the prompt was changed, you will notice we can still run the commands previously mentioned. This means we did not enter a folder as you would typically expect in an operating system command line. Here is the demonstration of that to see that we can still use the commands. The prompt tells us we now have a context set in which we will work. You can set this by typing the show options command. Here you can see show options, or you can just press options. And these are the settings that I talked about. If you don't set these options globally, you have to set it every time you use a new module inside Msfconsole. This will print options related to the exploit we have chosen earlier. The show command options command will have different outputs depending on the context it is used in. The example above shows that this exploit will require we set variables like our host and our port. On the other hand, a post-exploitation module may only need us to set a session ID. See the screenshot below. A session is an existing connection to the target system that the post-exploitation module will use. So before we go to the below picture, one important thing that it needs to be mentioned here, in Metasploit, when we use the command show options or just options, you have these, let's say, required or non-required fields. What you have to set every time when you use Msfconsole, a module inside Msfconsole or an exploit, you have to check out the required column, which will have required or not required options to set, right? So always check required sections before running any kind of exploit or a scanner. Now for the below part, here we see another kind of module is a post-exploitation module. And here we see the options, right? We basically trigger options again, and we can see what kind of options we have. So different modules obviously will have different kind of requirements and just settings to set. The show command can be used in any context, followed by a module type, auxiliary, payload, exploit, and so on, to list available modules. The example below lists payloads that can be used with MS17010 external blue exploit. Here we see inside the module, we use show payloads, right? And here you can see the compatible payloads. If used from the Msfconsole prompt, the show command will list all modules. The use and show options commands we have seen so far are identical for all modules in Metasploit. You can leave the context using the back command. We'll jump one level up. Further information on any module can be obtained by typing the info command within its context. Right, so we are again in Eternal Blue and we say info. After that, we will be prompted with information about this exploit. Alternatively, you can use the info command followed by the module's path from the Msfconsole prompt. info. So basically we have this Msfconsole and we just say info and then the exploit or the scanner that we want information about. Info is not a help menu. It will display detailed information on the module such as its author, relevant sources, and so on. We have the search keyword. On the most useful command, one of the most useful commands in Msfconsole is search. This command will search the Metasploit framework database for modules relevant to the given search parameter. You can conduct searches using CVE, numbers, exploit names, or target systems. Here we see an example of using search to search for the Eternal Blue exploit. The output of the search command provides an overview of each return module. You may notice the name column already gives more information than just the module name. You can see the type of the module, auxiliary exploit, and so on, and the category of the module, scanner, admin, Windows, Unix, and so on. You can use any module return in a search result with the command used by followed by the number and the beginning of the result line. Use 0, for example. Here you can see the IDs of the search that you want. I don't know. In this case, it's search Eternal Blue. And here is basically the ID. And in order to access the exploit, for instance, let's see where is the... Here, right? Here is the Eternal Blue. We just say use number 2. So as you can see, instead of using use and then the exact path of the, in this case, the scanner, we will just use, after we search, we will just use the ID of the result. Another essential piece of information returned is in the rank column. Exploits are ranked based on their reliability. The tailor below provides these respective descriptions. So we have from excellent ranking all the way to manual ranking. Excellent ranking, the exploit will never crash the service. This is the case for SQL injection, CMD execution, remote file inclusion, local file inclusion, and so on. No typical memory corruption exploits should be given this ranking unless there are extraordinary circumstances. Great ranking, the exploit has a default target and either auto-detects the appropriate target or uses an application-specific return after a version check. Good ranking, the exploit has a default target and it is the common case for this type of software. English Windows 7 for a desktop app, 212 for servers, and so on. Normal ranking, the exploit is otherwise reliable but depends on a specific version and can't or doesn't rely on auto-detect. Average ranking, the exploit is generally unreliable or difficult to exploit. Low ranking, the exploit is nearly impossible to exploit or under 50% success rate for common platforms. And manual ranking, the exploit is unstable or difficult to exploit and is basically a denial of service. This ranking is also used when the module has no use unless specifically configured by the user. Here we see a GitHub source for the wiki of Metasploit, right? How exploits are ranked. You can direct the search function using keywords such as type and platform. For example, if you wanted to search results to only include auxiliary modules, we could set the type to auxiliary. The screenshots below shows, okay, let's see. So, so here we can see search type, auxiliary telnet, and then the results that are relevant to your search criteria. Please remember that exploits take advantage of vulnerability on the target system and may always show unexpected behavior. A low-ranking exploit may work perfectly and an excellent ranked exploit may not. Or worse, crash the target system. Answer the questions below. How would you search for a module related to Apache? Search Apache. Who provided the auxiliary scanner SSH _login module? Msfconsole. Let's jump real quick inside there. Okay, and here we say info and we paste this. Provided by Todd B. Awesome.